Okay, go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. If I haven't met you already, my name is Gigi, and I am the grants specialist for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. With me this evening is Michael Lowe. He is from our Information and Community Relations Office. He will be helping me with the slides and just any technical difficulties we might have. So tonight is our second meeting on the grants informational meeting. We are also repeating this presentation on Wednesday, November 3, during the day at 11. So if there are folks that want to attend, the last one we're offering is on Wednesday. And we are recording these sessions. So these will be posted on our website. So thank you all for coming and taking away time from your evening and from your families to be with us. The presentation's actually quite short. I'd rather spend more time on questions and discussion. So next slide. So we're going to go over just real briefly the two grant solicitations. The department is authorized by the commission to offer these grant opportunities for the current fiscal year. The commission approved a total of $1 million budget. So we've allocated 100,000 for the capacity building grant and 900,000 for the regional plan priority project grant. And we'll go through each one. Usually when I do informational meetings, I cover the basics of who, what, when, and where, and why, just to get the basic information out to everyone. Next slide. So we are using the Zoom platform. Many of you are familiar with this. So just a quick refresh. If I can ask everyone to keep yourself on mute till we get through the presentation. We'll take questions towards the end. You can at any time type in questions in the chat. When we do get to the question time, you can raise your hand or just physically raise your hand. Or if you're on the phone, go ahead and just speak up over the phone to take questions. Next slide. This is our standard meeting kuleana for DHHL meetings. We all have kuleana to make this a productive meeting. We ask everyone to be respectful of the person talking. And if you can all give a chance for everyone to speak before you want to speak again. And again, use the chat box at any time. You can raise your hand as well. If for some reason we do not get to your question, you may also email to our dhhl.planning@hawaii.gov email address. Next slide. So as mentioned previously, the department has two grant solicitation notices. Our grants program follows the state procurement process. So this is what's called the request for proposal or competitive sealed bid. The first grant is the capacity building grant. The number there is the grant identification number. And then the second one is the regional plan priority project grant. Also, it has its own number. The grant packets and forms can be downloaded from the department's website, as well as the State Procurement Office HANDS website. And if you're not familiar with SPO HANDS, it is where all state agencies are required to post any and all kinds of solicitation notices. So if you're interested in, other Department of Hawaiian Homelands, we are legally required to post there. Same thing with, Department of Business, Economic Development, Department of Human Services. So any procurements must be posted on the HANDS website. So that's the address at the very bottom of the screen. Next slide. I do want to point out that the department's Trust Grants Program, the source of funds is the Native Hawaiian Rehabilitation Fund, or NERF. And I point this out because it is one of our trust funds. So if you are looking for matching funds for a federal or state grant, this is perfectly allowable. And I always remind people, always, always, always check your other funder and their requirements of what they need. It may be allowable on our side, but you got to check with your other funder to see if it's a match for them. By administrative rule, any projects, or I'm sorry, any grants funded from NERF, the beneficiaries of the proposed project you are doing must be Native Hawaiians as defined by the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. That's the main requirement. And it is upon you to track and log who is receiving assistance from your project. So should at any time the department need to review who you provided assistance to, we will call upon you to show your documentation of how you've kept track of the beneficiaries. Next slide. So the first is the capacity building grant. Why is the department doing this? It's mainly to assist homestead communities, including applicants and their supporting organizations, to enhance and strengthen organizational capacity to plan and implement projects. So when we say capacity, generally the areas would be things like governance, so board training, leadership development, financing, setting up your bookkeeping system, for example, or if you have a bookkeeping system and you are looking to change it out for some reason, you can do that with these funds. Same thing with any other administrative systems for your nonprofit. Products and services. So these would be things like, you want to offer a new service, or you want to evaluate a program, an existing program you're doing. If you want to do a needs assessment or survey to help you craft and vision out, what your service is going to be. And of course, marketing and community outreach. So things like newsletters, setting up a website, those are some of the things we've seen that communities have applied for. Next slide. Who is eligible? Real simple, any nonprofit, 501c3, federally tax exempt. If you're not a 501c3 yourself, fiscal sponsor with a 501c3 is allowable. And I get a lot of questions about fiscal sponsors. So let's go to the next slide. So I just put together this list, and it's only a partial list, not a comprehensive list. So generally people ask me, what's a good fiscal sponsor? Fiscal sponsors can provide a service that you need, mostly on the administrative side, serving as the 501c3. They would be the entity named in the contract should you be awarded. So they would be responsible for, reports, sending us receipts, things like that. A good sponsor has open and good communications with you and an excellent working relationship. Hopefully the two of you have worked together before and you had a good experience. So you're choosing to use them as a sponsor. Good sponsors also actively mentor you. Becoming a 501c3 is a very specific decision to make. So if you haven't decided yet if you want to be one or not, a sponsor should help mentor you as you know as to how they became one. You know, the good and bad and ugly of being a 501c3. The sponsor and you would have a written agreement. I really highly recommend that. I've had experiences with small community groups, and they had verbal agreements. And then, of course, unfortunately, the grant went bad. So it was very difficult trying to work with two entities that thought they had a partnership, but wasn't really spelled out in a written agreement. So just be really clear between what you're going to do as the community group and what the sponsor is going to do. Fiscal sponsorship is in their line of business, and they have a good track record. They've done this before. They've sponsored other groups and projects, and they have a good track record. And they have the capacity to take you on as a client. And basically what that means is, you know, if it's a large fiscal sponsor, for example, and they have 100 clients, you want to make sure they can take you on as the 101 client, you know, that they're not too busy or too overwhelmed with other things that they may not give you the support that you need. So those are just some, you know, just some real quick tips, you know, from what I've seen with not only the department's grants program, but, you know, other places I've been, other nonprofits I've worked with. Next slide. If you are a current existing department grantee, you have an open grant or grants, uh, make sure you have all your reports turned in. We just had a deadline this past month, October 31, quarterly reports. If you're missing any reports, now's the time to catch up. As long as you get them in before the application deadline, you'll be okay. The other thing I emphasize is uh, be sure to check your Hawaii Compliance Express. If that is out of compliance, there's no way we can accept your application. And the reason I suggest you check early, if there's a problem, sometimes with that system, it takes a while to get it fixed. It may be an easy problem, it may be a more lengthy problem. It's a really funny system if you haven't yet worked with it. So after tonight, just double check that everything's in order. Because that is a hard requirement. We cannot accept any application without that certificate. So hopefully if everything's in order, then you'll be okay and go ahead and submit an application. If not, try and get everything, send in all your missing reports, any deliverables that are owed, etc. And it is okay. I did have this question the last time. If you have an open grant, it is okay. You can still apply for a new one. You know, just make sure all your reports are in. Next slide. So again, this particular grant is to help build organizational capacity to support beneficiaries to plan and implement projects. We have $100,000 budgeted, available statewide. The maximum award is $5,000 per organization. So if we get 20 applicants, each asking the maximum, that'll tap out our budget. You don't have to ask for the maximum if you don't need it. We've had groups come in for a smaller amount. So the pool is just, you know, it differs every time of whatever mix of applications come in. Next slide. This is a sample list. What are eligible projects? I mentioned some earlier. These are other ones we've seen: strategic planning, community visioning. We had a group on Oahu, Homestead Association, hire a grant writer to help them prepare some templates for future use. You can also use the grant to develop a fund development plan for some longer range planning, if you have multiple projects. We also have had groups use the funds to get their own 501c3 tax exemption. That's an application through the IRS. And then lastly, a couple rounds ago, we had an association do a train the trainer where they had equipment operators within the homestead. So they applied and got a capacity building grant, and they rented equipment to help their neighboring farmers clear land and to teach them operator skills, or heavy equipment operator skills. And that's another good way of building capacity within your own homestead, where you have mentors and peers that can help each other. So that's kind of that train the trainer concept, where you yourself are the trainer helping other homesteaders. Next slide. So the grant application due date is December 15th by 4 o'clock before our office closes. Original grant applications must be received before or on the due date, and only at the Kapolei office. This is not a postmark date. It has to physically be in our office. No emails. We're not set up to accept electronic. No faxes, and no applications to any district office. They need to come straight to our Kapolei office. And just keep in mind, mid-December, we're talking holiday mail rush time. So give yourself plenty of space. I've had neighbor islands actually fly over and drop off, hand deliver their applications to our office. So just keep in mind, it is the holiday rush. Next slide. Here's the overall schedule. This is also posted in the grant packet. So we're doing these informational meetings, which are optional. The deadline is December 15. The department expects to review the applications throughout December and then make its recommendations to the Hawaiian Homes Commission at the January scheduled meeting. February and March is the time where we will notify all applicants and then begin the contracting process with those who are awarded. So overall, the estimated grant start date would be somewhere in May or June. This is the planned schedule. It is subject to change. We just never know what can happen. If we do change the schedule, we will post it on our website, so that way everyone's informed of any changes to the schedule. Next slide. Oh, okay. So we'll take a little break here, and any questions on the capacity building grant?
Hi, Gigi.
Hi, Tama.
Couple of questions. So if your organization is a fiscal sponsor and you take on a project, what if they don't have articles and bylaws?
The group that you're sponsoring?
Yes.
For the capacity building grant, that should be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that should be okay. Yeah, the fiscal sponsor, that one, yeah, should have all the required documents.
Right. Okay. And then do you need a wet signature?
No,
Okay.
it would be helpful if you do electronic signing to also include the validation certificate. Um, the reason I do ask for that, it's not a requirement yet. Uh, our contracts have to go through a sister agency called DAGS, Department of Accounting and General Services. They will someday start to make that a requirement. So we want to try and start practicing that um, more and more because we don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball with DAGs because they will kick it back.
Okay, last question is does the review panel consist of
I'm
members
sorry, say that again.
does the review panel consist of members outside of DHHL?
No, not at this time. We have been using staff, qualified staff internally. Usually it's someone from community relations, because these are community grants, a community development specialist, and then me, grant specialist. Um, so we haven't appointed the procurement committee yet. So we'll see who that is. But yeah, the last couple of years it's been DHHL staff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome. I think I saw Daniel.
Yeah, one of my questions got answered. Thank you. The other one was just timing because we're gonna try to form a new nonprofit. It might be in our best interest to just look at the second cycle that might happen probably in the spring. And I was just curious if you already had that scheduled for the next cycle of capacity building. And I just wanted, for timing to kind of get it in my head.
Yeah, we haven't done multiple cycles in recent years, largely because our budget is so small. Years ago we had a much larger grants budget, so we're budgeted for $1 million, and this current round is allocated fully. So 100,000 for the capacity building and 900,000 for the regional plan. And so if we have enough applications to award all, we would not have another cycle. The next opportunity would be should the commission approve our grants budget for next fiscal year, 22-23, they would do that in June. So if they approve us for another grant budget in June, then we would run another cycle in fall of 23 or 22.
22. Yeah. Got it.
22.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
even
so
again,
it's very unlikely we would have another round in the current year. We haven't done that in the recent years.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to regional plan grant. A lot of the requirements are very similar. So, Michael, we can put the PowerPoint back up.
Stand by, please. Stand by, Jichi, one moment, please. I believe this was the correct slide. If not, please let me know. Stand by.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and next slide. Oh, we're towards the end.
Oh, am I too far?
Yep.
Okay, it
Okay.
should be this one.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is the Regional Plan Priority Project Grant. So again, why is the department doing this? This grant is to assist beneficiaries to implement regional plan priority projects that are identified in the most recently approved regional plan. And this is also to help leverage resources. We like to fund as many priority projects as possible. And usually we like to be the first funder in and to get you started. And we've had many regional plan projects already that were funded years ago that were able to get grant and aids, federal grants, and other funds. So it's been a good grant program for us. And I do emphasize, the most recently approved plans. I've had a couple questions already about older projects, and those would not be eligible. We did include in the packet a list of all the eligible projects. It's Exhibit A of the regional plan grant packet, and it's the last 5 pages of that packet. So we want to make it really clear as to which projects are eligible. Next slide. So same thing, any nonprofit, 501c3, or one using a fiscal sponsor is eligible. And again, the proposed project or assistance must benefit beneficiaries. That's really the hard requirement. But as far as who's going to apply, it can be, any nonprofit, 501c3. Next slide. So same rule, if you're a current existing grantee of the department, make sure all your reports are in, address any compliance issues. Otherwise, we would not be able to accept your application. Next slide. So again, the budget is $900,000 available statewide. You may apply for up to $100,000 per organization. The typical grant period we've seen is 2 to 4 years. We have a handful of regional plan grants that are going on their 6th or 7th year. So it really just depends. The good news is because these are our own trust funds, there's not really an expiration date. Unlike some of the, for example, state grant and aids, sometimes those funds go away even though you might be in the middle of your project. Next slide. So again, only those projects that are identified as a priority project. We did include an Exhibit A as part of the packet to be really clear on what are the eligible projects. You can also go to our website if you would like to get more detail about each regional plan, because every priority project has a full write-up in the plan itself. So definitely check that out if you have not done so already. Next slide. So same thing like the capacity building grant. Regional plan priority project grants are due December 15 by 4 o'clock. Again, original applications must be in our office no later than December 15 in the Kapolei office. No electronic submittals, faxes, or anything submitted to a district office. And again, reminder, it's a holiday rush. So give yourself plenty of time and space to get your application in. And when the applications do come in, our staff at the front desk are instructed to make sure to date and timestamp it, so we know, so we have a log and a tracking of when it was received. Next slide. So same schedule as the other grant. Applications are due the 15th. DHHL will do the review the last half of December and get it prepared to go to commission for recommendations and commission approval at the January meeting. February and March, notices to all applicants, and we begin contracting with the awardees. May and June is when the grant start dates are estimated. Next slide. Okay. Any questions on the regional plan grant? Daniel. I think you're on mute, Daniel.
Sorry about that. Our regional plan for Waioko Paukukalo is dated 2010. Is there any thinking on updating our regional plan in the near future?
I don't know the schedule. We started updating regional plans, and we started with the oldest, making our way through. So I'm not sure where we're at. I know couple A is being updated right now. So whatever year that one was, I want to say they were maybe 2007 or 8. So if you guys are 2010, be another couple of years.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Temma Watson has a question.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead,
Hi.
Temma.
So in this slide, you mentioned that the grants was 2 to 4 years, but is 2 years the minimum, or we just make our own?
No, and we'll get into that in the next slide. These are proposals coming from you. So whatever you believe is your proposed timeline, and your timeline should be realistic and align with what your scope is. Oftentimes I see very large scopes, and I've seen timelines where we've had to extend the grant 3 or 4 times. So that tells me that the timeline and scope were not aligned with each other, and or something unexpected happened. So you gotta make your story and pitch it to us, and just make sure your scope, budget, and timeline are all saying the same thing and are reasonable. That's a lot of what the reviewers will look for.
Thank you.
Daniel, did you have another question?
No, I just wanted to say that we are currently engaged in a regional plan, and the process we found to be very efficient, and we appreciate you folks' due diligence in getting us to where we need to be. So I just want to say thanks.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yes, and there are a handful of really good projects that are going well.
Yeah.
But it takes Daniel's a planner, so clearly shows how much you folks in Waihu Co 3, really spent time thinking and planning it out. That really shows. Okay, anything else? I don't see anything. Okay, next slide. We can go one more. I think we have one more. Oh, well, back up. Sorry. There we go. So for both grants, just as a reminder, and if you haven't yet read the packet yet, so a complete application consists of 4 parts. There's the application cover sheet. If you are using a fiscal sponsor, fill out both cover sheets, one for the group and one for the fiscal sponsor. We need contact information for both entities. The meat of your proposal is part 2, and that's what I was saying earlier. So that's where you're gonna tell us your story, write the scope, why you believe you're the ones in the best position to implement it, who all your partners are, how are they contributing, your work plan, your budget, your timeline. And I also suggest you have somebody read your proposal from page 1 to the very end, including all the attachments. And just make sure every piece tells the same story. Because that's one of the biggest hurdles for a reviewer is trying to understand, what you're proposing. And also keep in mind, reviewers may or may not know who you are. They may or may not even be familiar with your homestead area, if it's a homestead, nor your regional plan. So for example, for me, I spend a lot of time with Molokai because I'm the liaison. So I know those projects inside and out. And if I had to review one from Kauai, I don't have that background. So I will, I will look to the proposal to inform me and to give me a good description of what the project is about. So that's going to be where you want to spend most of your energy is in part 2. Part 3 is all the required forms and attachments. Please note that some of the forms do say sample. And when we say sample, it's really just that. We ask that you put it on your own letterhead and adjust it to your organization. Use whatever words you want to use. Unfortunately, in the past, we've had applicants simply sign the form that says sample. So that didn't go over very well with the reviewers. So just make sure when you see a form that says sample, make it your own. Because again, we want to hear your story. And then part 4 is anything else. If you have any photos, news articles, support letters, anything that will help support your proposal. So there's no page limit. If you guys want to send us 200 pages, send us 200 pages. And we also provide a checklist on page 30. So if you want to go back and double check, make sure you have all the forms and requirements. There's a 1-page checklist, so you can double check yourself before submitting. And last slide. So just reminders, carefully read through the request for proposals and follow the instructions. Incomplete applications will be returned, and we have done that when we do a first scan. And if there's pieces missing, we will just automatically return it. And again, applications must include a compliance certificate from Hawaii Compliance Express. That is a hard state requirement. There's no way we can accept an application without it. And again, if you're a current grantee, please get your reports in and any other outstanding deliverables. And you can keep working on them. And as long as you get them resolved before December 15, then we can accept a new application. I think that's it, right? Last slide. Yeah. So there's the website address for the packets. The forms are in Word, so that should be a little easier to fill out. Any questions or afterthoughts after today, you can email us at the dhhl.planning@hawaii.gov. And we're doing one more presentation on Wednesday at 11. So you're welcome to join that as well if there's more questions you have. And that's it. Anything else?
Nairi has a question. Go ahead, Nairi. Please unmute.
Oh, okay.
Hi, DJ. I'm from Molokai.
Aloha. Yes, hi.
So, when you explained that the grants are already covered for the priority projects, like in Exhibit A. So my
Yes.
question
Yeah,
to you
Exhibit
is,
A is the. Go ahead.
so my question to you is, if we're writing a grant, these are the priority projects that are in effect right now in the Exhibit A, which is not necessarily
Yes.
compatible to ours, right? Like
Y- Yeah,
for
yeah. Only the projects in the list are the ones that are eligible for this grant. It is only the priority projects, not the. We've had some mix up in the past where people read through the regional plan and picked off the list that's called potential projects. So those are not the ones we are offering this grant for. It's only the ones that are called priority projects. And so we thought we'd make it more convenient by providing a simple list of the eligible projects. Yeah, so if it's not on that list of Exhibit A, then it would not be eligible for this regional plan priority project grant. And partly the reason for that is, the regional plans are beneficiary driven. They go through extensive beneficiary consultation. So those are what the community told us the department are the priorities. So this is just one way we're trying to support, those beneficiary driven projects that rose to the top. Usually there's 5 priority projects in a regional plan. Some regional plans have less than 5, but most of them have 5. So again, this is a way that the department is trying to support and bring some resources to those projects that were vetted during consultation and rose to the top as the highest priority. And
thank
now
you.
I'll just make a note because we've had similar questions. So in years past, we offered what's called a project implementation grant, and that was open to just about anything. But that was back when we had a very robust grants program. In recent years, our grants program has really shrunk. Our budget has really shrunk. So we've only been offering the smaller capacity building and this particular regional plan. I wish we could offer more, but we haven't had the funding. And because these are NERF funds, we are expecting this particular trust fund actually to be going down. It feeds off of water licenses by Seaworm or DLNR, and also from receipts from prior sugarcane lands. And those are starting to dry up, unfortunately. So our grants program has actually been getting smaller in recent years. And that's why we're emphasizing leveraging with the regional plan grants, because if we can give seed money, great. And then we hope that our homesteads can leverage our dollars to the fullest. Yeah. Any other questions? I think I see a hand up.
Yeah, Kalma and Kanoi, go ahead, please unmute yourself.
Hi. Yeah, so we had a couple of questions. The first one is, who do we talk to at DHHL to find out the like status of our regional priority projects, like how far along they've come so far, and kind of like what, I guess this would be talking with the grants people, but where to or how to make sure that we have the information for those projects to apply for the grant even?
It depends on which island, because each island has a liaison.
Okay, Big Island.
Okay, so that would be Andrew Choi. Let's see, I think I can put his email in the chat here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Andrew is the liaison for Big Island. So he's most familiar with the regional plan projects. He is super busy because he's also the acting planning manager. So for some reason, after a couple of days, if you don't hear from him, let me know, and then I'll give him a nice reminder.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
And
You're
then the
welcome.
second question was for the projects, like if it's not fully thought out yet or planned out yet, are we still able to apply for like a portion or a phase of the project, like phase 1, say?
Oh yes, because some of these regional plan projects are huge.
Yeah, that was
100,000, does not go that far, unfortunately. Yeah, so a lot of projects come in just for the planning phase, and some even come in just for a needs assessment. I mean, you can do a lot with 100,000 to, do needs assessment surveys, income surveys, because sometimes federal grants, need some kind of household income survey. Yeah, oh yeah, there's a lot of, yeah.
Okay, that sounds like where we kind of have to go to start off with. Yeah. Would I be able to talk with you more later? On that stuff? Okay.
Yeah, I think, my number's in the thingy, and I'll put it here in the chat as well. It's on the packets. Yeah, I continue to work remotely, so my DHHL cell is the best number.
Okay. Okay, great. That was it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Final questions?
Hi, this is Donna. Kahiki Nui Gigi. This is Gigi, right?
Oh, hi, Donna.
Hi.
Yes.
And we have such major comm issues dropping, so I talk fast. I'll get to the point. And I'm not trying to rush you, but I already we dropped twice. So anyway, real quick, the regional plan for Kahiki Nui 2011, which we participated in, how do we update it, or is it in the works already to update the regional plan? How do we do that?
Yeah, yeah, we had an earlier question, same thing. So we are in the process of updating the regional plans. We started with the oldest ones first, and I'm not sure exactly where Kahiki Nui's is. Definitely check with your liaison, which is Julie Cachola. I know we are almost finished with the Kapolei regional plan, and they were first done in 2007 or 8. So anything after that, is would be in the queue. So definitely check with Julie. She may have more recent information than I do. But we are
I just
going back to the oldest, trying to catch up. And as you folks know, we're sorely understaffed. So that's really slowed down a lot of these plan updates, unfortunately.
All right, so but this is what I was looking for, a person contact. You gave it to me, Julie, we're good. I'll get on the phone with her. We have a KHHA meeting coming up this next week. So we'll get the ball going. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Judy.
Great, Donna. Thank you.
Next up is
Hi,
Daniel.
What if we were to, in my mind, if we were to organize this nonprofit that would oversee the interests of our entire Waihuko subdivision area and present recommendations for a plan update to kind of get ahead of the, get ahead and, even though it's not sanctioned by the department, we could engage in a planning process and make some recommendations to be considered by the Hawaiian Homes Commission. Would that be something that would be reasonable?
That would be a great project for the capacity building. I don't know if we could really, it wouldn't, I don't think we could do it under a regional plan grant.
Yeah,
But
okay.
definitely capacity building, because you're building your community's capacity, and that's your approach, is to
Right.
have that conversation with the different phases, different Waihuko phases.
Yeah. Oh, excellent.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay.
I see no other hands raised.
Okay.
Nothing else in the chat. Last call for
Okay.
questions.
Yeah.
Oh, Daniel has one more. Go ahead, Daniel.
I just thought, okay, we're gonna have to get a sponsor, and our current implementation plan, our sponsor charged 15% administration fee. What would be an acceptable capacity building sponsor administration fee, if any, that you guys would, 15% is a lot of 5,000. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to wrap my brain around cost.
Yeah, the department doesn't have a hard rule. It's really, between you and your sponsor. Because like you said, if it's a high fee, that leaves less for you, the group. I'd say at least half of the grants we've awarded, there's been either no fee, the sponsor donated, or it's been less than, I want to say, I think the most I've seen is 10%. Everything else has been below that. But every once in a while, yeah, we've seen a high, but that's only once in a while. But we don't have a hard requirement.
Would it be suspicious if we had a fiscal sponsor that had multiple 5,000 capacity building grants? As an example, say we went with Kaihube again as our fiscal sponsor, and we did one request for our nonprofit organization, formulating the organic documents. And then the other grant would be for the regional planning that would guide uses, moving forward for this nonprofit. I mean, are we starting to parcel out? Is there going to be any concerns with that kind of approach?
Well, the only thing I'd say in a scenario like that is make sure if you're using the same fiscal sponsor for several, make sure they have the capacity and administrative capacity to handle, and pay attention to you, okay? Because they may have other clients, they may have other projects, they may have other grants that they're working on. Okay? So just make sure to check that out. And also just remember, if you're going to submit multiple, no matter if you use the same fiscal sponsor or not, you're competing against yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Understood. Thank you.
And it's just really going to come down to the mix of applications you know, if we get bombarded with 20 really strong ones, you know, the likelihood of funding the same group for multiple grants is
Right,
not
right.
too good.
Understood. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. So just, you know, yeah, some things to think about. You know, I wish we were a bigger program like the feds have, then, you know, that would be a much better competitive pool. But we're so
Right,
small. We got 50 homesteads, you know, not even, those are homesteads, not even the counting the applicants, right?
right,
You know,
right.
we want to see more applicant groups come in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, again, last call for questions.
Yeah, so I put my cell phone number there. I'm one of the workaholics at Hawaiian Homes. I do evenings, I do weekends. Mostly because I have back-to-back meetings during the day. So you know, so you know, if you call me in the early evening and it's community, I'm okay with that because I know you folks work, many of you folks work too during the day. So doing this volunteer work kind of hard to call during the day. Okay, I think, oh, I didn't check chat. Anything else in chat? Nope.
Nothing else in chat.
Great.
Okay,
Always good questions at these things. It also helps me, you know, sharpen my brain too. So thank you.
okay, that concludes our meeting for the evening. Again, folks, thank you so very much for your time and joining us tonight. And we hope to see you again. Aloha.
Aloha. Bye. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks. Very nice.